New Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network tonight. Network's new series, original series that is, SmythTV. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it, exposing the fake news and giving you the real news. And today, like any other, there has been more fake news out. It's been unbelievable. The lengths and the breadths that these Democrats will go to absolutely lie and gaslight their entire voting base. I woke up this morning and trending all over the place was hashtag Barr lied, hashtag William Barr, hashtag impeach Barr. Speaking of Attorney General William Barr, set to testify as he did today. I've got a couple clips on that. Some clips that are a little bit longer than usual today, but it's very, very important. The 4-minute clip that I have of Barr testifying under oath is absolutely damning to the lies that the media is out propagating. Joe Scarborough is out lying about all this. You've got these politicians that are lying, bold-faced lying to their base. I guess to keep the heat off them from being in trouble, because we know what the truth is, and the truth is that the collusion, Russian collusion, was Hillary Clinton and the Russians, was Hillary Clinton and the Ukraine. So we're going to get into all that. And then all of the three representatives right now that are screaming, yelling, Adam Schiff, Mad Maxine, and Jerry Nadler, just out of control. It borders on criminality of what these elected representatives are doing in the face of Congress. It's just flat out lying. So we'll talk about that. Donald Trump tweeting out some great news today, and also the deep state. We are definitely going to get into Joe Biden today. Joe Biden is on. We'll have to hammer this out. We've got Mark Meadows talking about deep state news. We've got a very, very good 7-minute clip. I know it's long, but it's something I've been talking about with Joe Biden. Steve Hilton actually explains the connection that Joe Biden has with John Kerry, his sons, and China, and the money. We've got to hammer home that Joe Biden is as dirty and as crooked as Hillary Clinton, factually. Not just made up, but factually is crooked as Hillary Clinton, because Joe Biden has just now pulled ahead to first place in the Democrat pollings as 38% likely voters. And again, when it comes to primaries are all about name recognition. Name recognition. Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, name recognition. So we got to hammer home the facts about him. And then Venezuela Operation Freedom. The players behind this entire debacle, whether Iran and Russia, Obama, the reason for all of this are all the ideologies that are held by the Democrat Party, all held by the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Irans of the world, and the Russias of the world. And we've got technology at our fingertips. I say it over and over again. I've got some great folks that I follow on Twitter, and some of these names that I'm going to put out there, if you're on Twitter, I'm emphatically, you must follow them. Stay plugged in with real news, not the fake news. Turn off the CNNs, turn off the NBCs. Plug in right here, SmythTV. And again, this is New News Media, newrightnetworktonight.com. We've got some great writers there. All the writers there are great. Some great articles you've got to read. Putting out articles on a daily, breaking news articles that you've got to get into. If you want to stay plugged into real news, newrightnetwork.com is the place to do it. Right here at Smith TV, we will showcase these writers and bring them on. We've interviewed a couple of them already. Brilliant, just breaking news and good stuff. So check it out. And we appreciate the support from all our Patreons. Thank you so very much. If you like the show, crush the share, crush the follow, hit the subscribe, and jump over to smyth.tv. Become a Patreon of ours. Shop at the shop. Get you some shirts, some gear, some Smith gear, and help to support the new movement that will be the Keep America Great Again movement. Donald Trump's doing everything he can to make America great. It will be our job after 2024 to keep America great. And that's what we're doing right here with Real News. So let's jump right into it. We're going to go right into the Barr testimony, and the Barr, he lied. So today, Barr testified, Attorney General Barr testified, and during his testimony and his open statement, I took a clip of his open statement, just the last 4 minutes of it, which really hammered home this whole notion about Barr lied, meaning no obstruction for Donald Trump, no collusion with Russia, all of this, and his 4-page summary, which he'll explain that it's not a summary. He didn't want to make a summary of Mueller's report. He wanted to, as if you're in a court case, this is the verdict, and then we will release the testimony afterwards. That's exactly what he said, and that's how he wanted to go about it. I think that's phenomenal. This might be a little over the snowflakes' heads, but this is what it is. This is law and order. You might not like the results, and a lot of them don't like the results, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not true. So let's check this out real quick. This is a 4-minute clip that I got from the testimony of Attorney General William Barr.
And we concluded that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation was not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. Let me just talk a little bit about this March 24th letter and Bob Mueller's letter, I think, which I received on the 28th. When the report came in on the 22nd, and we saw it was going to take a great deal of time to get it out to the public, I made the determination that we had to put out some information about the bottom line. The body politic was in a high state of agitation. There was massive interest in learning what the bottom line results of Bob Mueller's investigation was, particularly as to collusion. Former government officials were confidently predicting that the president and members of his family were going to be indicted. There were people suggesting that if it took any time to turn around the report and get it out, it would mean that the president was in legal jeopardy. So I didn't feel that it was in the public interest to allow this to go on for several weeks without saying anything. And so I decided to simply state what the bottom line conclusions were, which is what the department normally does, make a binary determination. Is there a crime or isn't there a crime? We prepared the letter for that purpose, to state the bottom line conclusions. We used the language from the report to state those bottom line conclusions. I analogize it to announcing after an extended trial what the verdict of the trial is, pending release of the full transcript. That's what we were trying to do, notify the people as to the bottom line conclusion. We were not trying to summarize the 410-page report. So we released that. I offered Bob Mueller the opportunity to review that letter before it went out, and he declined. On Thursday morning, I received, it probably was received at the department Wednesday night, or evening. But on Thursday morning, I received a letter from Bob, the letter that's just been put into the record. And I called Bob and said, what's the issue here? And I asked him if he was suggesting that the March 24th letter was inaccurate. And he said no, but that the press reporting had been inaccurate and that the press was reading too much into it. And I asked him, specifically what his concern was. And he said that his concern focused on his explanation of why he did not reach a conclusion on obstruction. And he wanted more put out on that issue. He argued for putting out summaries of each volume, the executive summaries that had been written by his office. And if not that, then other material that focused on the issue of why he didn't reach the obstruction question. But he was very clear with me that he was not suggesting that we had misrepresented his report. I told Bob that I was not interested in putting out summaries, and I wasn't going to put out the report piecemeal. I wanted to get the whole report out, and I thought summaries by very definition, regardless of who prepared them, would be under-inclusive, and we'd have sort of a series of different debates and public discord over each tranche of information that went out, and I wanted to get everything out at once, and we should start working on that. And so the following day, I put out a letter explaining the process we were following and stressing that the March 24th letter was not a summary of the report, but a statement of the principal conclusions, and that people would be able to see Bob Mueller's entire thinking when the report was made public.
He's under oath. William Barr is under oath stating that his conversation with Mueller was that Mueller had a problem with the way the media was reporting this. It's the fake news media that Mueller had a problem with, and now we see the fake news media on full display, going absolutely nuts, completely lying about what Mueller said to Barr. This started by the New York Slimes as they released the statement, and then reliable sources or people close to the situation say, and all this hearsay, and it's just absolutely incredibly wrong and very, very bad because they're inflaming their base and they're gaslighting half of the nation. Think about that. 320 million people in this country, half are getting gaslit or less, are getting gaslit by the mainstream media. And it's absolutely infuriating how they're lying, and they're making up stuff and they're twisting words. It's absolute evil. The mainstream media has become the media, it is the media of evil, just absolute flat out evil if they don't get their way, colluding with the Democrat Party. We saw with the WikiLeaks emails that have been released that they were colluding. And just a real quick update on Julian Assange. Now, I just thought about this. It was announced today that he gets 50 weeks, almost a year in prison for skipping bail in the UK. So he'll at least be taken care of in jail and fed and watered. So we'll see what happens after that. So we got a whole nother year for Julian Assange and in America to make decisions, or Trump to make decisions on what to do with him or bring him to the States or not. Anyways, back to this. This is all smoke and mirrors to cover up for the real collusion that we're now starting to, we knew it all along, but you got to find facts and you got to find the smoking gun. And slowly but surely, the smoking gun is starting to appear. Emails are starting to arise. We're starting to see that originally, way back in 2016, where we saw that John Podesta had emailed Hillary Clinton and talked to her about how we can destroy Trump. I believe it was might have been January, December 2015, January 2016, right around in there, where they were discussing a way to destroy Trump and linking to Russia and Russian collusion, hang 'em high, I think she said. And so that's where it originally began. They actually, and the funny thing about the whole damn thing about this whole thing is that Hillary Clinton and her campaign said they actually wanted to run against Trump, feeling that Trump would be the easiest to destroy. And not so at all. So Breitbart News, Breitbart.com. We've got Mad Maxine.
This is not the purview of your specific committee, but you obviously have strong feelings about both the Department of Justice, how it's conducted itself, this president, Mr. Barr. Your reaction to the news that Mr. Mueller objected in writing to the characterization, called Mr. Barr and asked him to release those summaries, and none of that was done.
Well, first of all, I am so pleased that our special counsel, Mr. Mueller, not only wrote a letter to Mr. Barr, but he got on the telephone and he absolutely said to him that what he had done did not capture the context or the substance or the nature of his work. And so
that is a flat out lie. Have her testify under oath and say that she's flat out lying.
Represents.
When you use that term obstruction of Congress, a term used, if I'm not mistaken, in articles of impeachment that were issued against Richard Nixon before he resigned. They were added. They were not in the original bunch. Something somewhat similar in the 11th article that was issued against Andrew Johnson about the way that president treated Congress. Is that what you're referring to when you use that term specifically?
Well, everyone knows that I believe that this president should have been impeached. And I also understand that the polls are showing that we don't yet have the public with us. And that makes it very difficult for the members of Congress who are trying to carry out their duties and responsibility and responding to their constituents. And so we're now, our committees, the 6 committees that have oversight responsibility and investigative responsibilities, we're going to carry on with our investigations, with our oversight, and with our issuing of subpoenas. If they fight us in court, we're going to fight them back. The president said he was going to fight us tooth and nail. We're going to fight him tooth and nail. They won't just get away with this. We've got to convince the public that this man is irresponsible. He's dangerous, with no respect for the Constitution or the Congress of the United States. We have to keep just working at it.
Final question for you, and this is about the fate of Bill Barr. Julian Castro tweeting that Attorney General Barr willfully misled the American people to cover up attempted crimes by Donald Trump. He should resign his position or face an impeachment inquiry himself immediately. What do you think of that?
I think that's correct. I think that Barr should resign. And if he does not resign, he should be facing impeachment proceedings also. He has abdicated on his responsibility. He has lied. He has used the very words coming right out of the president's mouth: no collusion, no collusion, no collusion, and made a decision that despite what the special counsel put into that report about obstruction of justice, he made the decision that he had not obstructed justice. It is outrageous, and he needs to go.
All right, Congresswoman.
Again, as you can see, elected officials, absolutely, if she believes what she's saying, if she truly believes that Donald Trump obstructed justice, if she truly believes that the Mueller report, the 440 some odd page report, showed that there was collusion and obstruction of justice, if she truly believes that, there's something god awful wrong with this elected official, and she needs to seek help. She needs to seek counsel. Mueller did this on purpose. Mueller purposely left it open and did not write the conclusion, which is uncalled. He should have closed it out, wrapped it up, and finished it. Did this on purpose to cause this backlash. This is Democrat tactics. Divide, sow hate, and create problems. give politicians and the media stuff to run with. I mean, you see MSNBC talking about impeachment of Nixon, impeachment of Johnson. Same thing. This is the same thing with Donald Trump. You know, this should be impeachment for Trump as well. She's calling for impeachment 45. This is so very dangerous that these politicians are going down this road. It's the wrong road to go down. And now we've got even more. This is... And the reason why I'm showing this has to be, you guys have to see this, because you have to know why the left is getting so violent. Why Antifa is taken to the streets in Portland, while crews and gangs and people are just walking up and beating up people with MAGA hats on. You've got to understand why. This isn't just random acts. There's a reason for this. This is happening on purpose because of these elected officials. And now Adam Schiff tweets out, now it is confirmed Mueller objected to context, nature, and substance of Barr's misleading summary of the report and the false public narrative it allowed the White House to create. No one can place any reliance on what Barr says. We need to hear from Mueller himself. And this is where it originally came from. New York Slimes, breaking news, Mueller wrote a letter to the Attorney General objecting to his characterization of the Russia inquiry appearing to clear Trump. False. Not true. Barr under oath. Barr's the only one testifying under oath. New York Times is not under oath. They can write all the garbage they want. Adam Schiff is not under oath. He can spew all the garbage that he wants. Mad Maxine, she's allowed to. It's their First Amendment right. But there is something really wrong with our politicians going and taking to social media and blasting false narratives and absolute lies about the sitting president, the opposite party, in order to defeat him, remove him from power, for them to regain their own power. And that's the truth of all of this. They've lost their power. And what do they do when they lose their power? They scream and yell and behave like brats, like babies, until they get their power back. Another one by Adam Schiff. 828 days, 10,111 misleading or false claims, including 45 falsehoods in 45 minutes on Sean Hannity. Donald Trump may be the most deceitful president in U.S. history. It is hard to know for sure, but this much is clear. His attack on truth is corrosive to our democracy. The Washington Post, that's what he retweeted. The Washington Post. The Post fact-checker database has been updated with President Trump's weekend remarks. He has surpassed 10,000 false claims during his presidency. Journalism is dead. I'm going to make another shout out to y'all. I'm bringing you the real news, exposing the fake news. Jump over to SmythTV, become a Patreon so that we can continue to move this forward and fight this awful, wretched, lying Democrat Party colluding with mainstream media. Crush the share, crush the follow, hit the retweet. If you're on the YouTubes, crush the subscribe and hit the little bell so you get the notifications. Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Right after this show, Wayne Dupree comes on. Do not miss Wayne Dupree's show. A phenomenal show as well, giving you the real news, exposing all the fake news. Jerry Nadler out there. Mueller has written a letter objecting to Barr's summary of his report because it did not fully capture the context, nature, substance, and an investigation of the investigation. Doesn't that sound like something that Adam Schiff just said? It does. It's word for word. It's parroted. I have demanded the letter. Barr must answer to this. Mueller must be allowed to testify. All right. Let him testify. Let him testify. Let the letter come out. You guys will look like absolute idiots when it does. And this at Megavolt001, hashtag Barr, hashtag fake news, hashtag Mueller report. Don't believe the headlines. Mueller said Barr memo was accurate. And I just showed you the clip under oath stating it was accurate. Thismedia.com. Good. If you're looking for real news, it's right here. I'm exposing the real news to you guys. PJmedia.com, a good one to follow. Breitbart News, a good one to follow. Gateway Pundit, a good one to follow. At Megavolt001, if you're on Twitter, follow him as well. And now we jump into this at Carmine Sabia. If you are tweeting hashtag impeach Barr and Trump, or hashtag Barr lied, or hashtag resign Barr, or hashtag impeach Barr, then you either have not read anything past the headline or have an inability to comprehend what you read. And here he posts a picture. When Barr pressed him whether he thought Barr's letter was inaccurate, Mueller said he did not, but felt the media coverage of the letter was misrepresenting the investigation, officials said. It's right there. It's right there in black and white. This is absolute insanity. And then we've got Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs interviewed Joe DeGeneva over, I believe it was last night. Joe DeGeneva. Last night. Today's May Day, May 1st. Happy May Day to everybody. Put up by Jim Hoff on YouTube.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller wrote a letter back in late March to Attorney General Barr objecting to his early description of the Mueller investigation conclusions, appearing to clear the president on possible obstruction of justice. Joe DeGeneva talked about Mueller's shortcomings.
The bottom line here is that this is a continuation of a very bad process that Bob Mueller started by hiring a bunch of Democrats and having them led by Andrew Weissman, who showed up at Hillary Clinton's so-called victory party and broke into tears with her. This is an abusive, outrageous, vindictive, unethical, unprofessional letter that was written for Mueller by Weissman. The Attorney General released the entire report except for the portions that the law prohibits. What does Mueller want him to do? He published Mueller's outrageously poorly written handiwork, the report. So I'm not quite sure what Mueller's problem is.
You heard of Joe DeGeneva, Weissman, who has been Mueller's henchman since day one. Weissman, who's been going after everybody and destroying lives. Weissman, the friend and pal and sharing tissues with Hillary Clinton on the losing night. Yeah, that Weissman wrote the letter. He was also involved in writing the second portion of the Mueller report, was nothing more than just a hit piece on Donald Trump's character. I'm sorry. There's no there. Sorry. Donald Trump tweeting out, no president in history has endured such vicious personal attacks by political opponents. Still, the president's record is unparalleled. At Lou Dobbs. So Lou Dobbs said that about Donald Trump. This is real news. This is how we have to get real news. We have to go to social media to get real news from the President of the United States and from others. Donald Trump tweets out, Gallup poll, 56% of Americans rate their financial situation as excellent or good. This is the highest number since 2002 and up 10 points since 2016. Real news. Mad Maxine just said that Donald Trump was a danger to this country and must be impeached. Danger to the country and must be impeached. Why? Because he's wrecking their system. He's wrecking the good old boy system. He's wrecking the power that they wield against innocent people. Donald Trump, Congress must change the immigration laws now. Democrats won't act. Wall is being built 400 miles by the end of next year. Mexico must stop the march to the border. Donald Trump tweeting out what he's doing day by day, an open book. It's right there. It's right there. They can't handle it because they can't find nothing. And none of that, this wasn't in the show notes, but I just thought about this. Jack Posobiec and One America News Network tweeted out and did a expose this morning on how the White House had to clear all electronic devices because suspected spying techniques were being used on White House officials currently. We're in a brave new world now, folks. You don't know who's out there. You don't know who's coming for you. I mean, even James Comey said that he puts a piece of tape over the camera on his laptop. The head of the Attorney General said, so he knows what's going on. And then this by Representative Jim Jordan.
What you do know is what Bill Barr said 2 weeks ago in front of the Senate Finance Committee. He said he's convinced that spying took place. There's a basis for his concern. He also said that he felt that there was a lack of leadership at the upper echelon of the FBI, and he used a term that we really haven't heard much before, and that was unauthorized surveillance. So I'm convinced the Attorney General wants to know the same thing you and I, Mark, want to know, and so many Americans. How did this all start? What was really the catalyst for this investigation? And did things happen in the realm of spying that were not authorized and should not have happened? And that's what I want to get to the bottom of, and I think that's where the American people want us to go. I will say this about Ben Rhodes and him saying there's nothing there. I don't think Bill Barr thinks that based on what he said a couple weeks ago. And also when it comes to Ben Rhodes, remember, he's the same guy who told us the catalyst for Benghazi and the attack that took place there, where 4 Americans gave their life for our country. He's the same guy who told us it was all caused by a video. So I don't put a whole lot of weight in what he says. What I do know is this thing started clear back on July 31st, 2016, and all kinds of crazy things were going on. What I do know is an opposition research document was the basis to go get a warrant to do what? Spy on a person associated with the Trump campaign. I do know those things happen, and it seems to me, based on what Bill Barr said a couple of weeks ago, he thinks there may be more there, and he's putting a team together to investigate.
We played the clip for you yesterday. Ben Rhodes, totally caught off guard. He did an interview that we're all shocked that he did. Had no idea that he was going to do this interview or that he would accept to do an interview like this. The guy that was questioning him, it went so wrong and so bad. The body language was so awful. I say get Ben Rhodes to testify to Congress. This is an absolute must. And moving forward, folks, we've got to jump into the deep state. We've got to get going. I don't have much time left to pontificate about all of this stuff. But at Christina Layla 1, at Mark Meadows, House Republicans planning to criminally refer 2 to 3 individuals connected to Fusion GPS. I would say it's probably either Bruce Orr or his wife Nellie Orr. Glenn Simpson lied under oath. They know it. They've said it. They need to bring Glenn Simpson back. He's the founder of Fusion GPS. He's the one that wrote the original in 2007, the original dossier PP Gate, and with Christopher Steele in collusion, and just filled in the names, made it bigger, created 3 to 4 more dossiers with the help of the Ukrainian politicians and the crooked, corrupt individuals in the Ukrainian government, where they all went and met in the Ukraine. That was being the puppet master was Russia for these Ukrainian politicians. There's your collusion right there. And now we get into that was deep state news. Now we get into the Joe Biden stuff. We got to get this out. This Joe Biden thing is big, big, big. We've got to talk about this and let everybody know what's going on. Biden's son Hunter, this by at YOAKUM girl 923. Biden's son Hunter made deal with Bank of China during father's trip. This is as dirty as it gets. Why are we still hearing Russia, 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 dirty Dems? And this replied to by our friend. Let's see if we're following Diane. Oh, we are now, Diane. So everybody follow Diane as well. Like and retweet that. And our friend that's why we were able to see this, because she replied to her at Lydia Lynn 89. Must follow her. Steve Hilton has the best summary I've heard of what happened with Biden and his son in China. Important 7 minutes that everyone should hear. And follow at NextRevFNC.
Then Vice President Biden rode Air Force Two on an official trip to Asia. Tensions were high over disputed territories in the East China Sea. Biden was joined by his son, Hunter, who was building a private equity firm along with his business partner and friend, Chris Heinz, heir of the Heinz ketchup family fortune and son-in-law of then Secretary of State, John Kerry. Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden were ushered into Beijing on a red carpet with a delegation of Chinese officials. From there, Joe went straight into meetings with the Vice President of China and President Xi Jinping. The next morning, the Bidens had a meeting with the U.S.-China Business Council. From there, it was off to Villa number 5 of the Diaoqiao State Guest House, where Madame Mao lived during the Cultural Revolution. Joe Biden struck a soft, friendly tone with the Chinese leadership, disappointing allies in the area like Japan, who were alarmed by China's increasing aggression. But perhaps Joe had other issues beside the global balance of power on his mind, issues like his son's business deals. Hunter's presence on the trip was far from coincidence. Just 10 days later, his company, Rosemont Seneca, signed an exclusive $1 billion deal with the state-owned Bank of China, creating an investment fund called Bohai Harvest, with money backed by the Chinese government. In the words of Peter Schweitzer, who first unveiled these conflicts of interest in his book Secret Empires, the Chinese government was literally funding a business that it co-owned along with the sons of two of America's most powerful decision makers. This is what it looks like to be compromised by a foreign power. And that deal was far from a one-off. In 2011, less than a year after opening his company, Hunter Biden was in China working with a company called Thornton Group to explore business opportunities with Chinese state-owned enterprises. Thornton Group touted the meetings on their Chinese language website, saying Chinese executives, quote, extended their warm welcome to the Thornton Group with its U.S. partner Rosemont Seneca chairman Hunter Biden, brackets, second son of the now vice president Joe Biden. Here's a screen grab of that web post captured by the Government Accountability Institute. It features a number of photos of Hunter Biden posing with powerful Chinese officials. Thornton Group was marketing their access to the son of the vice president to attract business with China. But guess what? The write-up and pictures of those meetings on Thornton Group's Chinese language website did not appear on their English language website. Oh, and here's another curious fact. These meetings occurred just hours before Vice President Joe Biden met with the Chinese president in Washington. In May that same year, Hunter had a second meeting with many of the same Chinese financial powerhouses, just 2 weeks after his dad, the vice president, opened up the US-China strategic dialogue with Chinese officials in Washington. And in 2014, another arm of Hunter's company, Rosemont Realty, began negotiating multi-billion-dollar deals with Gemini Investments, a Chinese firm with ties to the China Ocean Shipping Company, which reportedly operates as an extension of the Chinese military. But it's not even just China. A recent court case gave us a close look at the financial statements of Rosemont Seneca Bohai. Most of the money going out of that account was to Hunter Biden. Wait till you see where some of the money going into it came from. $145,000 from a Kazakh oligarch, $1 million from Chinese entities, of course, $1.2 million from a mysterious LLC tied to a Swiss bank that's been implicated in money laundering, and $3.1 million from corrupt Ukrainian oligarchs. Speaking of corruption in Ukraine, recent reporting by investigative journalist John Solomon revealed that in March 2016, when Ukraine's chief prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, conducted a wide-ranging corruption probe into the natural gas firm Burisma Holdings, of which Hunter Biden, who else, was a board member, his father Joe threatened to withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees from the US government unless that prosecutor was fired.
As soon as Peter Schweitzer's book came out, I bought it right away. I knew it was coming out because I tune into Breitbart News all the time, bought the book, started reading it, and we've been reporting since last year when the book came out on this deep state enrichment of family members, everybody from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama. He also throws in Republicans as well. He throws in Donald Trump too. So it's not like he's biased for Trump, but he throws in everybody and talks about all their dealings overseas with governments and other countries. And this, it can't be, we've got to keep talking about this kind of stuff because Joe Biden is running for president of the United States of America, which, the hypocrisy of the Democrats. They hate old white men, and the two people that are running on their ticket are two old white men. What are we doing here? You a bunch of idiots. So I promised you I'd show you the, and this at Super Elite Texan, must follow him. He's a great one to follow for real information. Joe launches a bid for presidency to a packed stadium. Then he wakes up and launches it in a half-filled room with a couple hundred people. Use your words, Joe. What? Did you ride in with Nancy Pelosi? This guy wants to be president? He's not even coherent. So listen to Joe Biden's words if you can. This is very disturbing. Here we go.
Joe Biden, I am Joe Biden's husband. That's how I know back home. That's how I know most places. Thank you, Renise. And before I begin, what I want to do is take a moment, quite frankly, to reflect on something that happened here in the state not long ago.
What's wrong with old Joe?
Let me say this simply and clearly. And hedge fund manager. The UAW took incredible. The same is happening in big hospital systems. How we define what constitutes a successful economy. Build our bridges, repair our roofs for pre-existing condition, not the end in themselves. Promise I will not compete with this already because why they do that? Go research to conquer devastating diseases like 600 billion, and only it robs the country like yours and mine. We grew up or go out and do extraordinary things. Folks in America don't think their children are going to have the same standard of living they had. There was $2 trillion tax cut last year.
Poor Uncle Joe. Poor Uncle Joe. What a shame. Guy's old. I'll have a drink with the best of them. Doesn't matter. I'm not, don't blame anybody. Donald Trump doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. I don't smoke, but I'll have a drink every once in a while. That's fine. No big deal. But if you're running a campaign, number one rule, don't drink. And if you got to drink late at night. Then when you're at home by yourself. Poor Joe. So we've got to keep hammering home Joe, and how bad this is. And now let's shift gears for the last part of the show real quick. We only got a few minutes left. Venezuela Operation Freedom launched yesterday. We did the whole in-depth report about it. I've got a personal tie to Venezuela in a sense. Not that I have family members in Venezuela, but I'll tell you a story real quick. Back in 2005, my wife and I took her sister and a business partner out to dinner, and both ladies, and I'm the only guy there. So it's out in California, and it definitely is liberal country. You just know that up front. I bought 3 or 4 wine bottles. We went to the restaurant. I paid for dinner, paid for everything. And her girlfriend in 2005, mind you, Hugo Chavez had taken power of Venezuela by then and proven that he was nothing but a dictator. Something came up, something was in the news. She brought it up. We got into a heated argument as that she was trying to tell me that Hugo Chavez was liberating the country, liberating the people. And in stark contrast, fast forward all the way from 2005 to 2019, fast forward, we know now that was a complete lie. And I wish I could go back and talk to her again, see what she thinks about Hugo Chavez's regime with Maduro. She'll probably blame it on Maduro, but nonetheless, because of her lunacy and her, I knew there's something so desperately wrong because it's socialism, dictatorship, communism, the powers that be. I was forced to look into Venezuela, and I then quickly began to realize how bad it was. Subsequently, I ran into another woman who had ties to Cuba, trying to tell me that America destroyed Cuba and still fighting the good fight. But no, that's not true. No, that's not true. It was the Batista regime that was looting the Cubans and looting the casinos. Granted, the casinos were set up by mafia guys and bad dudes. I understand that. But the country and the people were raking in millions and millions and millions of dollars. through the tourism and the casinos. And so the Batista family, the regime, took over these casinos. Well, started to tax them and take them over, tax all their money, take them over. The mob bosses couldn't deal with it. And they're like, man, we got to get out of here. We got to leave. And then all of a sudden, socialism, dictatorship, it does what it does every time. It wrecked it. On a New Year's night, the Batista regime loaded up all their aircraft with all their money and flew the hell out of Cuba, never to return. And within a few short months, Castro and Che Guevara come out of the woods in the mountains. Partisans, I guess something crazy, guerrilla fighters, come out of the woods and take over the whole regime. They were the ones that were able to kill and slaughter more than the average person and put fear into the hearts of those who ever dare go against Fidel's brother, and Castro and Che Guevara. That being said, those are the two reasons why I know about Venezuela and I know about Cuba, because two people in America have come at me personally and attacked me, actually for not knowing enough. So I thank you very much for forcing me to get into it. So now we've got Mike Pompeo on CNN in the Situation Room talking about what is going on in Venezuela with Wolf Blitzer.
You bet, Wolf. Great to be with you, sir.
Thank you. Did the United States government know this uprising was coming?
I don't want to get into precisely what we knew, but we've had good information all along as we've been working with the Venezuelan people and Juan Guaido and the National Assembly to restore democracy inside of Venezuela. We've been on that mission for a while. We're still on that mission. We've watched the events unfold today. We're urging there to be a nonviolent solution. Maduro simply should leave. It's his time. He has no answers for the Venezuelan people, and the United States is determined to assist the Venezuelan people in restoring democracy and beginning to build back their economy.
Did the United States back this push by Juan Guaido or give any assurances to Guaido that the U.S. would support him?
Oh, we've made clear assurances, Wolf, all along that we'd support Juan Guaido and the National Assembly. They're the duly elected leaders of the Venezuelan government. So yes, we've provided strong assurances to them. I indicated that again this morning as the president throughout the day. Venezuelan border, and Maduro denied the ability to get that food into them. This won't stand. The Venezuelan people won't stand for this. It may take just a little bit longer to get there, but I'm convinced. I'm convinced that democracy will return to Venezuela, and then all of us, the entire world, the coalition of 54 nations, will stand together to help the Venezuelan people restore their economy.
Okay, and this Secretary Mike Pompeo asked about Nicolas Maduro. This was breaking news over the evening about Maduro leaving or not.
I just want you to elaborate, Mr. Secretary, on what you said earlier, that he was apparently ready to leave, head off to the airport, Maduro, but the Russians talked him out of that. Is that right?
That's right.
So you blame Russia for the violence right now?
He was headed for Havana.
We'll talk about that. How do you know?
I can't tell you. You see this. You see all the open source material that's out there. There's lots of information. We're talking to scores and scores of people on the ground, civilians, talking to folks in the military. We're talking to opposition leaders. Many, many conversations that have given us every indication that the fact that Maduro's plane was parked on the tarmac and he was preparing himself to depart is a fact.
Yes, you heard it, folks. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about Russia and Russian ties to Maduro, Russian ties to the oil coming out of Venezuela. Now, most everybody has walked away from that, but Russia is deep ties with the Maduro regime. And also, not shocking, dictators do what dictators do, and they all hang out with each other. We're also got information now coming out and lots of pictures, lots of evidence, facts of Hugo Chavez and Maduro hobnobbing with the Iranian regime. Why would they not? And attempting to create a one world globalist new order. So, but back to what America is doing for the Juan Guaido regime. This is out at Breaking In Live. Breaking, U.S. Navy deploys 2 aircraft carriers, both southbound, one from each coast, amid Venezuelan crisis. We should do everything possible to help steer away from a war and do everything possible to help Maduro make the right decision to get out of Venezuela. I am not on board with war. The show of military might, I don't have a problem with that at all. We do that all the time, China and Taiwan. But this is a little bit different. We definitely have to stand up and stand against all of this. And at the Gateway Pundit breaking, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton on military force in Venezuela, quote, all options are on the table. We want as our principal objective a peaceful transition of power, but we'll take necessary action. I have the utmost confidence in Secretary Pompeo and National Security Advisor John Bolton, utmost respect for both of them, and Donald Trump showing the world that America will no longer stand for dictatorships, socialism, and the destruction of the citizenry. Look, you see the citizens on display here being destroyed. Yesterday, we showed you the clip of the armored vehicles literally running people over, crushing people. Iranian connection to Venezuela. This at Heshmet Alvia. I would absolutely, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I would absolutely follow him. His threads are incredible, and I only got a short amount of time to show them to you, but his thread right here, as the situation in Venezuela gets tense, the U.S. is placing its full weight behind the people's cry for freedom. It is worth noting the relations between the dictators that ruled this country and the dictators ruling Iran's regime, Maduro with Khamenei. Former Venezuelan Hugo Chavez also had close relationships with Khamenei. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, some know him as Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Syrian dictator Bashar Assad. On Hugo Chavez, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad once said he would be the resurrected and return alongside Jesus Christ and the hidden Imam to establish peace and justice in the world. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad attended Chavez's funeral in Caracas, joining Maduro's accusation that the leader had been killed by enemies. Further proof of dictators sticking together, I am now throwing Putin into the realm of that. Some people were saying that Putin was making the turn. I don't believe that anymore. Absolutely not. Putin and his regime are all in it to win it. Gateway Pundit, this is a great article. Look down in the show notes. You got to check it out. President Trump just destroyed Barack Obama's policies appeasing Iran and Venezuela regimes. He juxtaposed everything that Barack Obama did in his 8 years to curry favor with Iran and curry favor with Venezuela, not the people. Literally allowing the regimes to destroy their own countries and destroy their own people and put them into a slave state, a controlled slave state, which, as we can see now, is something that Barack Obama wanted here in America, to keep the power within the powers that be, and to bring America down to her knees so that we would be beholden to the government, just as these other regimes are. And then juxtapose Donald Trump saving America from that and standing up to Iran and the Iranian regime, and no longer giving money, canceling the bad Iranian deal, and looking towards regime change in Venezuela. What a strong leader in Donald Trump, just showing how bad Barack Obama's legacy is. And again, at Hashmat Alvi, what I remember about President Obama: turning his back on hashtag Iran's 2009 uprising, allowing Assad to gas its innocent civilians in Syria, selling off America's Middle East allies, bending over backwards to reach a highly flawed Iranian deal with the Tehran mullahs. Need I say more? Nope, you don't need to say any more whatsoever, because we know the truth. And this breaking by the same individual, I don't know. I just found this individual today on Twitter, but incredible articles, incredible tweets, and lots of threads. So jump down. I can't go through all the threads. Some of them are just too long to go through, but jump down in the description below and you can see the threads that he has put up. And the one that he just put up, breaking on the ground, we are saying Maduro's forces, known as the Colectivos, are opening fire on civilians, unit on motorcycles speeding away, seeming to be Maduro loyalists. And as you can hear here, shots fired. For those of you audio only, it looks like thousands and thousands of people. This is taken from a shot on top of a building, but thousands and thousands of people walking through the streets like in a march. And you can hear shots fired on the people as they're marching. And as we scroll down, you can see this one. Reports of proclaim Maduro. Report claims Maduro pro forces are opening fire. Protesters and deserted soldiers. Crowd is heard chanting Libertad.
Hay intercambio de disparos entre la Guardia Nacional dentro de la carrota. Hay disparo de FAL. Disparo.
Also, more footage. People attempting to leave, people attempting to get out, people attempting to do anything. People taken to the streets by the tens of thousands, possibly millions in Venezuela, all wanting regime change from Maduro, wanting him outside the military base in Caracas. This is a scene that is described as what appears to be pro-Maduro forces preparing a counterattack. And protesters at the gates, military base in Caracas, hashtag Operation Libertad. This more gunfire, military mutiny against Nicolas Maduro. That's the word on the street. Hashtag Operation Libertad. And we knew, and I was reporting this, and a lot of people were saying this, but if you want regime change, if you want Maduro to be ousted, he needs to lose his military. That was the only thing holding him in power, was his military. And now we're hearing reports on the ground that the military is defecting. We also saw military personnel hanging out with Juan Guaido. So we know that it's happening. And this breaking Iran, May 1st, Tehran, hashtag Iran, marking International Labor Day. A large crowd is rallying at the capital of Iran. There are reports that the military regime forces in Iran are attacking the peaceful hashtag Labor Day rally outside. They have been protesting for a very, very long time. This is nothing new. We see on the social media how people have been protesting in Iran for a very, very long time. And real quick, because nobody's talking about Bernie Sanders. This is Bernie Sanders' deal. This is what he is promoting, to be like Venezuela. And thank you, Real Saavedra. CNN and Brooke Baldwin failed to ask socialist Bernie Sanders a single question about Venezuela, alleging firing on protesters and running them over with armored vehicles. Baldwin didn't even mention Venezuela in her 12-minute live segment with Bernie Sanders. After ending the interview with Sanders, Brooke, CNN immediately brought up what was going on in Venezuela. This is why Americans hate the media, because you're all a bunch of liars. Absolute double standard. The liars in our mainstream media. Real news here on SmythTV, and follow at LSERVIES, Nationalist Lori. Venezuela's journey from wealth to disaster, one small step at a time. Once capitalistic wealthiest country in South America, 92 Hugo Chavez led defeated coup, imprisoned, released for national unity 2 years later. 4 years later, won the presidency by downplaying his previous radicalism. Chavez supported neither capitalism, socialism, or communism, supported a third way, balance between socialism and capitalism, called Democrat socialism. Sound familiar? His campaign employed using softer rhetoric about socialism and seizing power. Healthcare for all, colleges for all, social justice, new constitution passed with 72% of the vote, followed U.S. model with Supreme Court after losing several decisions. Chavez packed the court with 12 justices. Absolute fact, folks. That's how it went down. Giving you the real news here. Crush the share, crush the like, crush the follow. If you enjoy the show, jump over to SmythTV, become a patron of ours, and check out the shop for hats and gear and all kinds of great stuff. A lot of great information. If you want to listen to the show audio only, all listed shows are listed there right on the front page of the website. And we are in conjunction with New Right Network, newrightnetwork.com. That is the big tent umbrella. And right after this, like I said, the show's ending. Wayne Dupree will start right after this show. So jump over either on Facebook or Wayne Dupree, The Wayne Dupree Show on Twitter. Or if you're on Facebook, at New Right Network, at The Wayne Dupree Show. You can find it everywhere. And again, crush the share, crush the like, crush the follow. For Wednesday Wisdom, packed full of information. Hopefully I can shed some light on things going on out there, folks. See you. Let's see you tomorrow for Thursday Thoughts.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.